Human rights affect all of us, and the good of one human is really the good of all of us. And that is why it brings me so much joy to see the Black Lives Matter movement finally flourish. Hi everyone, I am Penny from Wacko-ish Astrology, and today I'm here to do a little bit of a vlog, but also sharing my perspective on some of the recent things that have happened. Humanity and the news and just everything that's been going on in 2020 has been so emotionally heavy that I haven't even made time to talk about it publicly here on my channel because frankly most days I've been too much of a mess to brush my hair and get up on video and try to be charismatic and try to act like everything's okay. I've heard from some other creators too that it's really hard to stay productive right now. It's really hard to create content at times, you know, just in the way that we normally would. It's hard to pretend that everything's normal because it's not normal. This is the least normal year that I have ever experienced in my mere less than 30 years of life. I'm pretty young, but even the people I know who are like in their 50s or older, I don't think they've experienced a year of life and of humanity that's been this crazy. And we've had some really disheartening moments. We've had some really scary things happen that we've all witnessed, that we've all been victim of, quite frankly, whether it's, you know, vicariously from having seen the awful thing, from having seen where our tax money has gone in America, from having seen bits and pieces of the truth exposed here and there and seeing, you know, the ugly faces underneath a lot of our political leaders, a lot of the people who we have let be in power. But that's why I'm really grateful that Saturn moved into Aquarius. And for the record right now, as I record this video, it's retrograde. It moved a couple degrees back into Capricorn. It was like 1 or 2 degrees. I'd have to double check. But it's going to be returning to Aquarius again soon. I posted all the dates for that and everything on Facebook, so make sure you're following me there. But it was like the moment Saturn moved into Aquarius, something shifted. People have always been talking about the age of Aquarius and like what it actually means. But when Saturn returned to Aquarius this year, something big just shifted, and it's like everyone got on the same page, at least for a moment, at least about like one topic that we could agree on, that we are done with oppression. And I know it's such a big demon to fight. Oppression is a big demon to fight, which is why humanity has been fighting it probably for just about our entire existence. And even when we think the fight is over, even when we think it's behind us, people find, evil people find new ways to oppress people, and they're always going to look for them. They are going to continue to look for them. So always keep an eye out for that. Always keep an eye out for what people are trying to do to you and do to the people around you and the ways they might manipulate you and use your own insecurities against you. And especially in that moment where the common person is willing to put the other common person down, and they'll fight each other and they'll disagree about things, and then one person will push the other person underneath the bus just so they can have their life be a little bit easier, or at least they perceive it to have made their life easier. You know what I mean? Like you do something at work where you let someone else take the fall for something that they really shouldn't have taken the fall for, and you feel like, well, it's just going to make my life easier if I don't, you know, speak up about what's happening, because that's going to put me in a difficult place if I speak up about what's happening. But then when you do that, when you make that small bad decision, seems small at the time, when you make that bad decision, things snowball, they start to get worse, and you might not have thought about it right then and there because you thought you were conveniencing yourself, but you've also put yourself in a bad position. So again, that's part of the reason why I'm so happy to see the Black Lives Matter movement flourish. And there's so many things that led up to this, like both astrologically and, you know, regardless of whether or not we practice and study astrology, we can see what was happening in the real world and see how it led to greater success and greater power behind the Black Lives Matter movement, which to me, oh gosh, it's so exciting to see people get on the same page with things and see progress actually being made. And I believe that this time is different. I know this isn't the first time that people have turned to the streets to go protest this specific type of injustice, this specific type of violence that has happened against people, specifically people of a certain skin color, specifically against people of color. And I know people of color are not the only victims. And you know what? The Black Lives Matter movement, from what I have seen, has been posting about that as well. If you follow the Black Lives Matter movement, you follow your local page or whatever, you'll see that they've stood up for some little white kids, some older white people. It's not just that they're here only for themselves. And I think that's something that, you know, we've still seen a few people come out and be scared. Like, oh, but the Black Lives Matter movement is going to take away rights from everybody else. And it's funny how that always seems to be like the argument, well, if other people have rights, then I can't have rights too. Like, I don't know why that always comes up. It's a bit silly. Like, you really just need to, like, take a look at yourself and take a look at what you're doing and realize how silly that is to think that if other people have rights, that's somehow going to take away rights from you. Because that's just not how it works. Where was I even going with this? But yeah, there's been still a handful of people coming out of the woodwork who are like a little bit confused about things, but I do think humanity is making a lot of progress. And one thing that I think is especially beautiful is I don't even know where to begin, because there's stuff about it that's so emotionally hard. And this year, we've all experienced some of the same traumas. We were all told to stay inside, to self-isolate. You know, every country had its own way of doing it. Some a little bit more strict and harsh and scary about it than others. But even the countries that wanted to be more lenient, like, for example, I live in the United States, if you can't tell already, by the way I talk and everything. But I live in the United States, and we were pretty lenient on it. And we did crack down for a little bit, and then we, like, backed off real quick after that. And even that approach has caused like a certain amount of trauma, and people have been really concerned about what has been going on for us here in the United States. So what I'm saying is what COVID-19 did is it all put us through the same trauma. It proposed the same fear to all of us. Now, every individual person is different. We have different ways of responding to like emotional pains and fears, and we have different defense mechanisms, different ways of responding to those things. And that's what I talk about on my channel all the time. You know, your moon signs, explaining why you act the way you do when you're emotionally upset. You can watch my videos on that if you want like more specific information on, you know, the way your friends are reacting to things, the way your lover's reacting to things. Just if you want to understand people on an individual level, yes, turn to astrology. We have that resource here for us. But the fact that we at least all experience the same thing for once, when normally it's not only that we have different personalities, but that we have totally different experiences in life. Like the things that happened to me didn't happen to most of the people around me. So we have different kind of things to report. But we saw the same thing. We all saw the same thing happen to George Floyd. We all saw that same thing happen, and I do feel like most people's response to that was the same. Most people were really deeply disturbed by what happened, and it was a big red flag, a big wake-up call for anyone who didn't fully realize how important the Black Lives Matter movement was in prior years. We all experienced that. We all at least had the opportunity to watch that video, even if we didn't click on it. We've seen other posts about police brutality and other horrible things that have been happening. And we all have had to deal with this pandemic together. We all have been told to self-isolate. We all have been, you know, told that that people are going to die, that a lot of people have already died from this, and it's not over yet. And we've all had to figure out how we're going to respond to that. And I feel like that gave us, there was a lot of fighting. I'm not going to lie, like there's still a lot of fighting over it, but it did give us something to bond over. It gave us reasons to deepen our connections with people. And then specifically how it affected the Black Lives Matter movement is that we were kind of all stuck at home, on the computer anyway. So when we see information start to travel through social media, it traveled too fast for anyone to censor it. And there are things that I shared and things that I posted that got removed from Facebook, because I don't know why Facebook removed them. I can't speak for Facebook. I have no insider information about why Facebook does the things that it does. I know just as much as you do, but I do know that they were trying to remove those posts. But here's the thing, they couldn't remove them fast enough, because people like me and probably a lot of my viewers out there, we save this stuff to our phones. We save it and we are ready to share it as much as we want. So they can delete it, but we just recreate it. We can put it in a video, we can just post it again as a picture, we can do whatever we want with it, and we can share it again, and we can get that information out there. And thank goodness this information finally spread fast enough, and it put more power and more awareness back in the hands of the people. And that's what I'm really excited for. And I think a lot of people don't realize that humanity operates as one. We exist as one. Even if we choose to act like we're all up against each other, even if we choose to fight each other, that doesn't change anything. We're all part of, metaphorically, we're all part of the same organism. We're all part of the same thing. And I do believe, like, this is one of my fundamental beliefs, that what is good for one of us is good for all of us. Now, that doesn't mean we should give all of our money to Jeff Bezos. No, because I don't think it's actually good for him to have more money than he actually needs. I think having massive amounts of money and power drives people crazy. It drives them to just be completely nuts and like lose their head. That's just my personal opinion though. So I think that, you know, looking out for the well-being of other people, it does sometimes mean that we have to call them out. That's my personal belief, and that's the way that I operate. But the well-being of one of us is the well-being of all of us. So if you see something bad happen to your neighbor, there's so many ways that you might not even realize that it can negatively affect your life. And I think one of the things that we still need to talk about and that we still need to fully realize is, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the correct terms for everything, but the racism and the discrimination we experience in our country, in the United States, is systematic. It's deeply ingrained within the system. You can pull up numbers about how supposedly Black Americans are committing more crimes than white Americans. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I haven't even looked that up myself because I do not care. I do not think that it is relevant, and here is why. Because of systematic racism. Because the prison system is actually an industry that a lot of major corporations in our country profit off of. And this is one of the things that is most scary to me. When you hear people say that slavery is not over, on an individual basis, what they mean might vary. But what we really mean, the reason why slavery is not really over, is because it kind of went underground, so to speak. It got transferred into the prison system. And we as Americans did not consent to this. We did not consent to have our tax dollars spent on a prison system that would essentially enslave Black Americans so that major corporations could profit off of their work. Now, here's a bigger problem with this. You know, aside from the fact that it's just messed up and it's destroying the lives of individuals, aside from that, if that's not bad enough, I don't even know where to begin, because there's so many things bad about this, and I feel like it spins around in my head, and I can't decide which thing to say first. So if you want to leave something in the comments to help me make this more organized, please do. My Mercury is retrograde in my natal chart, and I'm not always the best communicator. But, oh gosh, so what this means, basically the same way companies want to hire hard workers, they want to hire people who are honest, and they want to hire people who will operate with integrity, who they can trust. So what's really sad and really messed up is that the prison system also wants to hire people who are hard workers and people who are nonviolent and people who are not thieves and people they can trust to work while they're in prison. Now, I know having something to do while you're in prison is a lot better than not having anything to do. I personally always have work and something productive to do than to just have to sit there all day and look at a wall. So I do think it's healthy to have people work while they're in prison. That is a separate issue, though. That is a separate topic. What we are talking about is the fact that major corporations are profiting off of prison labor, and it's mind-blowing how much they are actually making off of this. They are making ridiculous amounts of money. The taxpayers pay for the prison system. The corporations profit off of it, and then they resell that stuff that prisoners made, the crops that prisoners grew, they resell it back to us, and then they tax us again for that same thing. And it's not fair to anyone. It's just absolutely not. Like, even if you're a total racist twat and you don't actually care about the lives of Black Americans, and maybe you don't care about anyone other than yourself, it's still bad for you. So, I mean, that's a really big, horrifying example of why human rights issues are important for all of us. And it's not just about that one person going down and that one person taking the fall. There's a snowball effect. There's a lot of ways that it affects all of us. So I'm hoping that we are going to reorganize the way this country operates. We're going to rewrite some of the rules. We are going to change out some of the people who we have let be in power, and we are going to fix things. And I'm hoping that's what's going to happen while Saturn is back in Capricorn. But one thing I really want to point out about racist people, and this is the same thing that I said on my own timeline. Let me backtrack a little bit. I think that a lot of Black Americans have started to feel more secure, and despite all the scary things that have happened, I think they've realized how many people, even outside of the Black community, how many people in America support them, and how many white Americans there are that are willing to fight for them, are willing to put their own neck on the line even, and are willing to cut off other people in their life who will not support Black Americans. And I personally am one of them. And I posted on my own timeline saying that part of the reason why I have no trouble removing racist people from my timeline and cutting ties with people who I felt were friends of mine when I see that they're racist is because racism is not just about racism. The way I interpret it and the way I understand that type of mindset, the mindset that allows someone to be racist, the way I interpret that to work is deep at their core. They have something in them that gives them the desire to throw other people under the bus. And they will look for excuses to do that. And a lot of times, race isn't the only reason why they do that. So when I see a racist person, I don't just see a racist person. I see a person that I can't trust. I've been worried too. I've been worried about, what kinds of things these people will actually do. I've known there are people out there who have been doing really bad things. And yeah, I don't think there's any question about, what is the right thing to do here. I don't think there's any room for debate. I think there's room for awareness, and I think there's room for more organization. Like a lot of people within the Black Lives Matter movement, they've been writing out kind of a list of demands for the police department, for the government, and things that we actually want to see change. So we need to continue being organized in that way, and we need to continue creating a political structure, if you can even call it that, or something that'll help things operate in the way that they actually should, and the way that we were always told that they were meant to, and the way that would benefit all of us. Because again, it's not just about one person, it's not just about one group of people, it's about us. It's about all of us. But anyway, I think I managed to say everything that I wanted to say, and I hope you understood that this is why I think the Black Lives Matter movement is such a beautiful thing, and something that I am so deeply happy for. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. You can subscribe to my channel if you want to. I usually create astrology content. This isn't the kind of video I normally do. But there's always room for change, you know, especially with how crazy this year has been. I'm always going to have to evolve and adapt and change the way I do things at times. So, I mean, if you're interested in seeing me again, subscribe to my channel. And that's really the only reason to subscribe, because I'm going to be the only consistent thing here. Anyway, thank you for your time and take care. Be safe. Bye.